Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Hello, everybody. My name is Noyana Pierre-Lewis, but you can call me Nono. Thanks for tuning in. Happy Thursday, and I'm here with my co-host John.
Hello.
And Mr. Frank.
Hey.
And we
Just
at least
saddled up here.
Yep. At
All right.
least John and I are students of South Fork High School, and we are a part of the program Youth in Government at our school here in Martin County. And it is a youth-run, youth-led, youth advocacy program that holds a lot of meaning into our hearts. Today we're going to be diving to the election, obviously, and a few other topics if we have time. But before we get started, if you want to call in and talk about it as we get through with this segment, our number is 220-WSTU, 220-9788. Oh, and don't forget, you are listening to the Treasure Coast Forum on WSTU 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station. All right, as you all already know, I always have my opener questions, and this one's a little bit deep, so saddle in, because where do we develop our morals and ethics? Are they right or wrong based on society standards? An example of this is, let's just say, doing mental or physical harm onto others. A human being that does not suffer from psychopathic tendencies, narcissism, manipulative tendencies, sociopathic tendencies, and since those are traits that people develop that end up going onto a downward spiral of their own, as somebody with the ability to empathize and sympathize, since that by default is built into us as we grow and develop and build connections with people, because a huge mass of people all come together and strongly believe that you should not bring mental or physical harm onto others, that belief becomes a reality where that is held to a certain standard or law, which ties into our morals, our ethics, and beliefs once more. Now take that example and spin it vice versa, where a mass of people believed in the opposite and made that true. And if this is the case, can we really call ourselves individuals or free thinkers if we are defining the values and beliefs that we live by every day based upon a consensus truth? And this is no way in saying that we should harm people. Like, please no. I'm an extreme pacifist, but these are the types of discussions that I have in my classes and with my peers on a daily basis. And with the election, to tie this all together, there are amendments, people and Supreme Court justices that are voted for, and those people that we decide whether they can stay or get booted on the court also have their own beliefs and truths that come from different masses of people. And those amendments, they were based on written upon specific experiences, thoughts, ideas, moral beliefs that have made their way to the American public. But if law, at least from what my very good teacher taught me, is constantly tweaked, manipulated, and spun to appeal to our emotions, how do we validate that? How do we call our beliefs our own or our thoughts if they come from generations before, shared experiences with other people, groups, a job, relationships, or even religion? And I know this is a heavy brain teaser that I threw out there, but you all just experienced theory of knowledge from an IB student who learns and studies and asks all these types of things in school. And moving forward, I encourage you all as listeners to ask deeper questions. Like, where does our knowledge of, the Democratic Party and the Republican and the Liberal and all these other different parties come from? How do we what do we truly know about the elections, despite what media tells us? Probe deeper, and I think you'll be surprised at what comes up. Or disappointed if nothing else comes up, since Google absolutely is terrible.
Oh, yes, the tiger.
Yeah. Oh, you will not believe what adventures I have to endure today with Google. But anyways, segue. I have a friend who put together a lovely analysis of this election and the news that's been going around and the controversy since. Once again, you already know I always go around my school yelling about something. And this time it was the election because I don't exactly know what's going on. A mini story time about this actually. I'm very loud. Okay, I take pride and ownership of that. And sometimes teachers have to say simmer down, and it's like okay. But I walked into one of my classes in the morning because I was a little bit late, but I was talking with a really good teacher and with one of my other friends who were also upset about this election and the results, and they were confused about how everything changed. And I'm kind of here like, okay, right? So I walk into my class and everybody is like upset. And being a really positive person, I'm very sensitive to that harsh, aggressive, angry energy. So that's what I was hit with. And my teacher, who's normally really kind, they were like upset too. And they kind of gave me attitude and was like being really like mean. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I'm pretty sure it was all because of the election. Because they never act like this. So I'm telling you, this election, I don't know what it's about, but let's just dive into it. So what my dear friend wrote is that the night slowly started, the night of before election day, slowly started with a few states having complete counts or definitive results. Almost every state started with a large number of Biden or votes for Biden, and these are either mail-in or early ballots. But states that Trump was currently leading in would slowly fill in with red votes as well. And these states were Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, and Florida were all major swing states. All right. So these are the important states that I guess either Trump or Biden needs in order to, have the mass, right? And as of today, 12 o'clock Eastern time, neither Joe Biden nor Donald Trump has won officially the presidential election. Any claims that Joe Biden has won the presidency are false at this time, and any claims that Trump has is false as well. That's what he wrote. And states have been called for candidate. Oh, these type of statements have been retracted, as not every call is set in stone. So, but there is he's saying that the evidence of voter fraud can be presented if found to the Supreme Court and disputed if legal action is brought by the Trump administration. This is what the Biden administration can do as well, and riots have occurred because of this. So really quickly, getting into the controversy, at least from what I've heard, is that there's been thousands of ballots. I think the 100,000, I think, and all of them just suddenly appeared, and 100% of them were for Donald Trump, not Donald Trump, Joe Biden, right? And I think Donald Trump was trying to sue and bring this to the Supreme Court in order to claim that there was voters fraud, which is interesting because when I was talking with a classmate of mine in class, he was saying how this was just simply a tweet on Twitter that Donald Trump just posted, as he does always, and it was a typo he added an extra 0, and this actually turned out to be false. Yet there's already so much mishaps, controversies, and there's USP came out, UPS, I apologize, came out saying that huge amounts of mail ballots were not even delivered as well. So, I mean, it's just shaking around, like, what is the truth behind this? There's so much.
Like, interjecting a little bit, I'm pretty sure, like, Mr. Trump had, like, a little thing about just, like, saying not to do mail-in ballots, which I find a bit interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, he encouraged the vote at your precinct, which apparently a lot of people on election day did. And just to avoid this sort of thing. Yeah.
But it's interesting because
it's very interesting.
Just 100%.
Right?
Yeah. And what are the statistical odds of? And here's the thing, and this came up yesterday in another news program, another media outlet. They were saying that there were 100,000 more votes cast than there were this is in Wisconsin. Than there were registered voters.
Oh.
So 100,000 more votes cast than registered voters. How can that happen?
What?
So, and Joe Biden won Wisconsin by 20,000 votes.
Yes, he did actually,
So
which was crazy.
crazy. So if you take away that 20,000 votes,
It would be.
right?
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
subtract that 100,000, so you'd be so theoretically, then the president would be up 80,000. Yeah.
But I mean, what I've also heard
Yeah.
from my peers, which is absolutely crazy to me. It's almost scary. And
Right.
This is separate from what my friend wrote. But of course, as we were talking, this just naturally came up in discussion. But my friend, they were like, not Donald Trump, I apologize. Joe Biden is in his family. There was this whole entire thing how their family's involved with China
Yeah.
and how this was all an elaborate plan. How they somehow worked with China to get the coronavirus over here and, shut down. Oh, I know, it's crazy.
Conspiracy
But
theory.
oh yes, but
It's the pigeons.
yeah. Let me finish because it's kind of scary. But I know it's just a theory. It's just a theory. But I like to talk about it and how there was quarantine then, right? And then so people were kind of like, in that fragile mindset, because obviously this is traumatic for people, right? And then Joe Biden and the Democratic Party specifically was depending on those mail-in ballots, knowing that people would be scared to leave their homes
Right.
because of the virus.
Right.
And then when talking with my friend, he said, well, if you look at the odds, who has most of the mail-in ballots? And it was the Democratic Party.
Right.
But he refuted the controversy by saying also that the Democratic Party seems to be more active in trying to combat the virus, which is his opinion. But I was like,
Yeah.
interesting. So there's, again, all of these controversies coming together is so terrifying. But going back to what my friend wrote, he says that California, which is virtually always blue, has 55 electoral votes. In comparison, Texas, which is larger and is virtually always red, only has 38 electoral votes. I don't know what he meant by that, but oh well. And he also wrote and highlighted that Michigan, which is apart from Nevada currently, is the most disputed and important state. The controversy is that the polls closed at 3 a.m. Those who monitored overnight noticed a vertical leap of 300,000 ballots. The possible evidence of voter fraud is that every single vote was for the blue candidate Joe Biden. This is perceivable evidence that potentially falsified votes were injected into the Biden campaign as he was losing a vital battleground state. Most importantly, while voting was closed in the middle of the night from 3 to 5 a.m. And this comes from thefederalist.com. And you can find it as the article title is, Yes, Democrats are trying to steal the election in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, which currently looking at the live election results, which was last updated at 5:19 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where Pennsylvania is currently 50.1% for Donald Trump and Joe Biden is 48.7%. You also have North Carolina, but most of it is reporting for Donald Trump. Same thing with Georgia. And Nevada is actually 49.4% for Joe Biden, and Donald Trump is 48.5%. So these states that either one of the candidates need to pull in, it looks like Joe Biden's going to have Nevada and Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia are going to be for Trump. But who knows? All
right. So there's this gentleman that was on American Thought Leaders, and his name is Hans von Spatkowski, right? Try to say that 3 times. And so he had some interesting thoughts. And if you want, because this is in line with what you're talking about.
Okay, let's see.
So, let's see if I can get my computer to work, and it's not. So when I can get it to work, I'll let you know.
Also, don't forget our number is 220-WSTU 220-9788. Continuing on. So then he goes on to say, and he shows a recorded photo evidence. I don't know where he got these from, But he says similar claims have been made in Wisconsin under the state that Trump was expected to take, only to flip blue in a short amount of time. Interesting.
Yeah.
And there was another thing that I brought up before we started the show, is that ballots will not be counted if filled out with a Sharpie, which is interesting because many voters were told to use Sharpies and even have pens taken away, which would have worked subsequently, and using these Sharpies would have had their ballots invalidated. As the majority of Biden's votes were mail-in ballots, this act of corruption and fraud is most likely to affect the person voters who tended to be Trump voters and were strongly encouraged to use their ballots, to use Sharpies to fill in their ballots, which is
Interesting.
I don't know about that one. I don't know. But what I found here that he provided as evidence to back this up is that in Maricopa County in Arizona.
Maricopa.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was an S. I apologize.
That's all right.
But yes, they allow Sharpies, and like we were talking earlier, just different states they have different outlines and everything. But one thing I'd like to mention is that when talking with my friends once more, I brought up the fact that last week I talked about my poll experience and how this voting process, it's not, there's no definite thing set in stone. Every place does something different, and the process from what I witnessed was very easy, therefore making it very easy to manipulate. So I mean, and with all this in mind, with all this controversy coming up, and even if it may be false or not, why is this even here to begin with this
Right.
this notion of this being one of the most important elections ever and this extra peer pressure to vote? This should not be the case, regardless of these different states having these different policies.
Right.
So the fact that, I mean, a jump in 300,000 ballots. Oh, is the video working?
I got it up.
Oh, okay. Let's take a moment to listen to it.
That apparently may not have been true in some of these places. In Pennsylvania, for example, there were reports that poll watchers, people who were certified under state law and the ability to go into a polling place to watch and observe what's going on, were actually kept out of polling places in Philadelphia, which, as you know, is a big Democratic stronghold, by election officials who basically defied the law. We also saw reports, and I think even photographs, of Democratic operatives inside polling places handing out campaign literature and otherwise engaging in something that's highly illegal, which is electioneering inside a polling place. And again, Philadelphia election officials did nothing to prevent it. So that raises a lot of questions about the validity of the votes coming out of Philadelphia.
Well, and so how would all these sorts of things be challenged if indeed there is some kind of challenge?
Well, I assume what might happen is that the Trump campaign and or the Republican National Committee may file lawsuits over these kind of blatant violations of state law, and in particular, the extensions of time and other changes made when it comes to absentee ballots, and argue that those ballots should not be counted, and or it raises so many questions about the credibility of the outcome that the election potentially should be overturned. We've never had that in a presidential election, but I can certainly.
Wow. Could you imagine that?
Yes, I can, because that's what I said last time.
Yeah.
And that wasn't specifically to attack our county, but it's just how we can't trust these people. And I did say last time we were here that the poll watchers are essentially the bodyguards of these precincts where people go to vote in order to ensure that the process is being upheld and respected. But if the people in charge are not respecting that, how can you truly know that your vote is going to go into the place where it needs in order for it to count towards something and making a change in this country?
Right.
Which was essentially what I was trying to say.
Well, I think there has to be an element of trust until the trust is broken.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why it goes to the court system, because if you feel there's been a violation, at that point, you bring it to the authorities to evaluate and rule. And I suspect I think that you have to trust in the system, number one. And at that point, if you see and you know what the rules are, and then you go ahead and you obey those rules. If you see somebody that's not obeying those rules, okay, you call them out.
Yeah.
And I think that's essentially kind of where we're at.
Yeah, it shouldn't. Oh well, but I simply have one question for you. Since I was talking with another class, I talked to so many people about this. It's hard to lose track. I apologize. But one of my friends was actually thinking that all of this voters fraud is actually a whole ruse by Donald Trump and the Trump administration.
Oh my God!
Wait,
conspiracy theories abound.
No, it's not conspiracy theories, but
that's a conspiracy.
and I was asking them. I was like, okay, well, I mean, what would be the point of essentially prolonging the election results and the ballot counting? Because I was saying, regardless of who it is, if it had been Joe Biden, making all these claims of voters fraud, I don't think this should have ever happened to begin with.
Right.
Regardless of each candidate, we need to be able to uphold the process. And the fact that I had one teacher just jump into our conversation one time today, and she was just like, well, this happens every year, but that should not be the norm.
Right.
So the fact that this keeps happening is a problem. And she was just saying how
it didn't happen in Florida this year.
Oh, no. Which I'm so proud of.
Right.
I'm so proud that we had our votes locked and sealed and done and over with. We sealed the deal, which is surprising because of all the crazy things that happens in Florida. I had a Florida Man segment, but we need to talk about this.
Yeah. Okay, good.
But my question was, if this was a ruse, what would be the purpose of Donald Trump simply trying to bring this to the Supreme Court, extend this out as long as he can, recount?
No logic to account for that. Zero. Because he's already the president. He's already the commander in chief. Why would he want to do anything to mess that up? There's no logical component.
But they were saying how recounting the votes would somehow turn out in his favor or something.
The only way a vote recount would turn out in the opposition's favor is if there were errors that were pointed out in the first place and corrected during the recount. That's the only way. But to the president's credit, months ago, maybe like May or so, when Philadelphia and I think Arizona started changing their election rules, which is mind-numbingly what? It's like in the middle of a football game, the coach comes out and comes to the refs and say, look, we're going to change the rules in the middle of this game because we don't, think we can get a better outcome if we change the rules.
Interesting.
And you can't do that. Do you think a referee in a football game would agree to that? I don't think so. Right. So you've had Philadelphia and Arizona and other places that specifically changed their election rules. And they did it under the umbrella that had to do with COVID, and it had nothing to do with COVID because all the other states didn't have those rule
Florida,
changes.
Texas.
Right. Didn't have those problems. So it was, factually a false narrative that they tried to promote.
Interesting. I didn't even hear about that. Okay.
Yeah, well, I follow this stuff. Yeah.
So, But
yeah.
What would be a possible? When do you think we'll have the time? Like when will we actually figure out who is our president for the upcoming years of our lives? I guess because I heard on YouTube from even the spiritual communities going crazy about this. Right. They're saying that this is going to be extended for a month almost, which is
well, it could go all the way to next year. Theoretically, if you got court challenges and things of that sort, it could be. If, for example, if one of the other candidates decide I've had enough of this, and they just could roll over and say, "Okay, it's all yours." That could happen too. So
I don't think so. In
Well,
this
I'm
case.
just saying.
No, I know, I know.
But
yeah.
those are all the possibilities.
Yeah.
The states could, go through their process and clean up their election ballots and post the results. If the results are accepted, then the election's over. If they're not accepted and challenged, then so it could be a matter of days, could be a matter of weeks, could be months. It just.
And also with the electoral
Yeah.
college, since I had a teacher, I talked to everybody about this. I had a teacher take time out of her class to simply explain all of these things, how you need to vote, how there's Senate and House voting that happens too every 6 years for specific states, especially
Right.
this year,
Mhm.
and these things. And
it's really fascinating to see that, they talked about a big blue wave this voting year. And it didn't happen. The Senate looks like they're, going to retain
yes.
the
Yes.
Republicans going to retain the Senate, and the Democrats look like they're losing maybe some seats in the House. So, there certainly wasn't, a mandate, we'll say. So it looks like if Biden wins, it'll be a divided government.
Yes.
And the stock market rallied today on that news.
Yes, going into the rallies.
And the rationale was that if Biden wins, the country would go too far left, and the stock market wouldn't like that. And so divided government would mean that McConnell and crew would be able to put their foot on the brake a little bit and keep the country from going over the cliff, so to speak.
Well, really quickly to
We're
go into
gonna
those.
to break too in a minute.
Okay. Well, let's see who our caller is first.
WSTU.
Oh, this will be fun.
Oh,
Who
yes,
is
it
it,
will
Frank?
be.
All right, stand by. Hey, so we're going to go to break in about a couple minutes, but stand by, all right? All right, so we'll get Bob on. Bob is in.
Oh,
All right, go.
Mr. Bob, hello. I thought you'd be shutting out for this week.
Oh, no. Well, I pretty much. I was going to go to the Keys, but it's too windy down there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to get windier too this weekend, I understand. There's a hurricane
Yeah.
coming.
You guys on the radio right now?
Yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought Frank said you were going to break.
Well, we're about to go to break in about 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So I'll give you a 2-minute warning.
Yep.
Well, I'm right near you guys right now by the station. I'm on the Roosevelt Bridge, but it looks
Oh, no
too
wonder
far
we got
to-
a good connection.
Right?
Yeah. It looks too far to jump, though. I'm thinking if I just go on my jet ski underneath, I can just wait for something to hit me in the head and kill me.
There you go.
Oh, let's not be too morbid. Oh. Anyways, so I guess since you're not a hermit in hiding, what do you think about what's going on?
Well, first off, I heard you in the beginning. My neighbor just left. But I heard you in the beginning. You can't be half an introvert and go around yelling at everybody at school. You know that.
Oh, I do it every day. I'm sorry.
I'm sure they enjoy it. Okay. What do I think? I think if we actually had a fair election, I think, and I do not think it's going to come back to that. I think we're going to have to bite the bullet, but if this country is the way it should be, DC is not going to let this go. Even people on the Rhino side, the Republican name only side, there are too many people. Right now, you got Comey, you got James Clapper, you got all these people that could go to jail. You got Joe Biden that probably would go to jail if he lost this election, with the dealings in China. I don't see it turning around. Thank God we kept the Senate, hopefully. And I think if you actually counted, all the fraud like you were talking about earlier, it's just crazy. We knew it was coming. We didn't do anything about it.
Right.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
I blame us. I blame myself that they even told us it was coming, the Democrat side. They said, oh, yeah, well, Trump's going to win on election day, but we're going to win after that. Well, then you have that Al Franken. He used to be on Saturday Night Live up there. Where was he, Frank? Minnesota?
Yes.
Yeah, and he lost. And then, 3 weeks later, they found all this stuff. And they said, oh, no, Al won. And, that's just the way it goes. This is why I say I think our states need electoral colleges, because California, if you don't live in the cities, anywhere in this country, if you don't live in the cities, and all this fraud goes on in the cities. And so if you don't have electoral colleges separately, I mean, in states, well, if the states' rights, there's a lot of states now where, like California, I guess, if you're an illegal alien, you can vote on local politics, but you're not supposed to sign any of the other stuff or president or whatever. It's not states' rights when you're affecting a national election. It's fraud. It's collusion. It's what some call it RICO.
Well, I predicted this. I kind of did. Well, what I said last week, but it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah, we all saw it coming, but we thought, well, this might not happen the way we're thinking it will. But
we know it wouldn't happen in Martin County anyway. So
yeah,
very good. All right, well, listen, we're going to go to break, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you for calling in. I always appreciate you calling.
Thank you, dear. You're a doll.
Yeah. Bye. Stay safe. Take care of yourself.
Bye-bye now.
And everybody else, sit down, relax, but don't go away. We'll be back soon. And this is WSTU 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station. See ya. So, welcome back to WSTU 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station, and you're listening to the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm Noyana, but you can call me No, and I'm here with
John.
and Mr. Frank. And so, last segment we were talking about the election, had some great discussions. Mr. Bob called in; it was all great. Always appreciate calls from you. But now we shall be segueing into something else. Now,
Okay.
take it away. Sorry.
Sorry.
Take it away.
Okay, so my one's more like carrying into like the more political aspect that we just had. It's the minimum wage in Florida. Just like you guys pretty much know what I'm referring to if you've been watching the news and such. But just to get into it, like the minimum wage in Florida is being up to $15 per hour. Now, this isn't making it like so business will increase it like directly as it's like placed in law, but what's happening is it's kind of like going in like levels. Like the first one, it's going to happen next year in September of 2021. Instead of the $8.50 USD, it's going to be up to $10 per hour, which after that, it's going like every year until 2026. It's going to be up like to $1. After that, it's going to go based on consumer prices, which in my opinion, it makes sense in its own right. But anyways, just like I've heard various opinions on this, like how some people will say it will destroy jobs and such, like quoting one thing from like, I believe it was CBS News, about 1.3 million Americans will be out of poverty and just as many jobs will be gone. I mean, we're kind of talking about it like at the break if you're like watching live.
So you're going to put 1.3 million people out of work,
but you could also bring a bunch out of poverty.
Or you can take two jobs and crawl yourself out of poverty too, you know? So I've done that. I've worked more than one job for a good part of my life.
It's interesting.
And that's okay. It's okay to do that. It's okay to work hard, create value for the work you perform, and then you can go to your employer and say, look, I'm creating value for your company. Let's see if there's some more here at the table for me, and I could see what kind of value I can offer you, you know? And I think, but to ask for people to just get paid more just because they're breathing, I don't see that.
Any rebuttal?
Any
rebuttal?
Okay, it's like it makes sense, like your opinion on that, but like from what I've been seeing, like a bunch of them can barely make ends meet, and then some of them they have like debts and taxes and stuff that they just like inherited. Somebody like ran away and that left them with debt, like one case, which is horrible, but it's a thing in the US. But even if you work like 2-3 jobs, you're still going to need to pay off everything. And I feel like that could help a little bit. It's not going to get rid of like bad situations like that, but it could help a little bit. Like I understand a bunch of businesses are going over, like I'm not supporting nor negating this one. I'm trying to just see how it plays out, but it's going to be a time, just to put it lightly, I guess. Noyana?
Well, honestly, I've heard lots of people downplaying this, so I'm going to be honest. I am against this. And I do understand how this may help people get out of poverty. But our American heroes, you know, the people we look up to, they weren't suddenly rich or come from, or if they did, then I don't know of them, at least my inspirations, you know, but these people, they have to work hard to get up to the top. And it's through minimum wage. Like my dad worked thousands of minimum wages, or he got the job that he did. But through those experiences, through those jobs and relationships and work management that he developed throughout that time, allowed him to pass on those traits through me. Same thing with my mom in education. She didn't immediately get it for free, or it wasn't lent out to her. This is something she had to work hard with, which is why she prioritizes education within my household, you know? And as somebody who worked at the YMCA over the summer with children, a really good experience I had, I only made $9 an hour, and I worked 5 days a week. And this was long, begrudging hours, early in the morning, around 10 o'clock to 6 to 6:30 in the afternoon. But I still have really strong connections with the people and the friends I made there. I have good memories. I understand people within my community a lot better because of that. And I made a lot of money when I got my paycheck. But is it really about that as well? And of course it is too, but
right.
yeah, but
So you develop the work skills, right? And you develop relationships, and you can leverage that going forward because people are going to say, well, I know this woman that can do these things. I'm going to give her a call because we have this need. And, and then, are you going to get paid $90? Probably not, maybe more.
Nope.
Right.
And
so there it is. I think, leveraging your skill set and building on your skill set and going to school and learning the things that you need to know so that you can sell those services. And basically that's what you are. You have to be a salesperson for yourself. And you have to sell yourself every day. And you're only as good as your last job.
And I think personally, if you do all of that, and if you truly put your heart and soul, or at least just your day's best into the work that you do and the things that you do, and even then, if the job doesn't accept you, or if they don't give you the money that you deserve, because I think eventually you will be paid for the time and the experience and the things that you learned within the workforce. At least those are the opportunities I think America provides, even for people of color. And if they don't, at least now in today's society, there are things you can do, because at least our generation is so aware about equality and striving to make change and have
It's been that way since the 60s. Really? Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Sure. I grew up in Detroit, right? Played stickball in the alley with kids, and and there were all peoples were part of my world, people of color, Asians, the poor white folks that came up. His parents came up during World War II to work in the factories, from Appalachia, and and I got along great more with the kids of color and the Asian kids than I did with the Appalachian kid, but because he just wasn't, I don't know, but the point being is that when you're kids, everybody's equal. And I never thought about anybody being different.
I heard a study about like kids recognize race like at a very young age. It was like 6 or something. It was like fairly soon, which I found pretty interesting.
Well, they recognize it, but they don't.
There's no prejudice.
There is no prejudice
to
it. No, I never. And so I was a kid of the 60s, and so I was like, no big deal, So,
anyways,
yeah.
Next segment.
Okay, so this one's just space-based, I guess.
Yay! Space.
Okay, so y'all pretty much probably know about how NASA recently landed a shuttle onto an asteroid and extracted some stuff from it. Basically, they extracted some soil.
Not a shuttle, but a spacecraft.
Yeah,
okay. All right.
I know. I'm sorry.
Shuttle was retired. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
You're good, man.
All right.
Anyway, so basically they landed one and they pulled out about just 2 pounds of rock and soil from like the asteroid Bennu. I think it's Bennu.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how to pronounce
I know,
that.
it's very weird.
It's different spelling. Anyways, I found it amazing. I mean, just the amount of like time and just like the time and the math, just like you have to take into account everything. You have to take into account debris, just like launching, just like the day's conditions. And like, if all the conditions are messed up, you can't get to it. It's an absurd amount of math.
The software that they had to plug in for that device, they had the spacecraft actually orbit this asteroid for about a year or two.
Really?
Mapping the asteroid. So they knew that they had 3D rendering. They knew every square inch of this rock, this potato in space, right? Because it's very weirdly shaped. And so they utilized that information to determine exactly the best, safest place they can go down without hitting, because the place was strewn with boulders, and they didn't want to bump into one of those things. And so it was just amazing that, and they had to program it so that it could actually understand what it was doing on its own, because it wasn't working in real time with us watching. We would see it like maybe 30 minutes later.
Oh,
So we couldn't tell it what to do. It had no.
well, that's for the people who think the moon landing's fake too. So, we're making headlines. You know, we're reaching out and above and beyond.
And just like continuing a little bit off that for like the people that want to know, supposedly like if everything goes like really well in like 2023, it should be coming back in like around springtime.
What should be coming back?
Like the samples and such.
Oh yes.
I just find it interesting. I mean, just like what can we find from them?
Traces of life, aliens.
Adriana's on the line.
Hello.
Hello.
Wait, Adriana Dill?
Hi. The one from Youth and Government.
Yes. Hello. I'm so happy. Yes. What do you have to share today?
I actually have a question.
Sure.
About what John said. Did he say that the minimum wages were going to go up in Florida?
Oh yes, they're going to be going up in increments, if I'm correct.
The first one is going to be in like 2021, which will be up to 10, and then after that, all the way to 2026, it'll be up to like $1. After that, it's going from like 2027 onwards, unless something happens. They're going to base it off like the consumer prices and such.
Yeah, it's the CPI, and that's generally 2.5-3%, depending upon what's going on with inflation.
So what are your comments, Adriana?
Well, I just found it very interesting because it's like a very kind of controversial topic because, like you said, like people need to work hard on this, and eventually they could like get a promotion and stuff to get better. But on John's hand, like lots of people need this extra wage, and you know, it helped them get better in their situation. So it's like I can see both hands.
Yeah.
It really depends on the person.
Yeah, it's
it really
pick and
does.
choose.
Yeah. As Mr. Frank said, it's like picking your poison, I guess. So.
Yeah.
Well, anything else would you like to ask, comment on?
No,
what do you
I
think
just
about
had
the
that
elections? Are you feeling the weird
that-
vibes too about it?
Yeah, we're just waiting for Nevada to see the rest of
Right?
the count.
Right? You know, it's interesting. I think Nevada is one of the, or I don't know, it's either Nebraska or Nevada that does not do electoral votes. I don't know. There's 2 states within our country that does not do.
Electoral college? No.
Yes, electoral college. Yes.
Really? Because even DC, which is not even a state, has, I think, 2 electoral.
That's interesting.
So it was either Nevada. What did you say?
That's interesting.
Right?
I didn't know that.
So I think Nevada is one of the states that does not do the electoral college, which is why it's taking them even longer to process their ballots and their votes. But I could be wrong on that. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure.
Right now, I think it's at 77%.
Yes.
So it's still processing.
But girl, those votes are split. It's very close. And I asked my teacher, I was like, do you think it's going to be cut and tie? Like, is it going to be a tie? And she says impossible, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean, like, every vote does count, so it's important to vote.
I'm glad you think that. That is one of our YIG students. I appreciate you, girl, but we are going to let you go so we can have John finish up the rest of the show. Thank you so much for calling in. I shall see you on the next YIG call. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Bye. All right, then. Continuing on. Oh, and thank you so much for calling, Adriana. I love you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so next one's like neither two. It's just something I really liked. Anyway, so you guys probably know about like the Pittsburgh Steelers, just like the team in general. It's a football team.
I don't know anything about football.
Yeah, neither do I, but we're not going to talk about that. Okay. So, anyways, so just like the Pittsburgh Steelers, like recently I was just like looking on like CNN, CBS, all the news stations and such. Anyways, they did something that was like pretty cool. Like I know other people are doing things such as these, but they ordered about enough food for like 65 people, according to CNN, and then gave it to the people that are working overnight in Pennsylvania, counting votes. Like, because that was, it's still an ordeal. Anyways, so like more specifically, I'm going to butcher the name, but it's Allegheny County in Pennsylvania. I probably butchered that, y'all, but
Allegheny.
Allegheny.
yes, I butchered it. Okay, so I did Allegheny. Anyways, so I found it really just like endearing, kind of just brought a smile to my face, actually, just knowing that people are doing like this. Like recently on the news, I saw like, I believe it was a couple or such that were like going around like their state and just like driving up, giving like food and such to like hospital workers and stuff. It's endearing and just makes my heart warm, I guess.
You know, as much as I say you can't trust in your fellow human beings, you can trust in them to an extent.
Yeah.
I'm a part of National Honor Society. We were also making baskets for people to get meals. And of course, I was raving around my school since I also volunteer with the House of Hope. And they had this event where they would pack meals for people and provide them with the Thanksgiving dinner and whatnot. Too bad it all filled up and I didn't get to sign in. But I was trying to promote the experience to get people in my school involved as well, because nobody really wants to except for me and like a few other friends, which is fine, but it's fine. But we need to be active people as well. We can't be having the older generation show us up as younger people, So I love that. Anything else?
Well, no, yeah. Do you want to take it away into your space section?
All right, really quick. Since you were talking about the moon and going on beyond the stars, NASA has new moonshot rules since we shall be going to the moon again. Yes, but I guess we're out of time, so we'll save that for next week.
You got about 20 seconds.
Yeah. Well, that's just a little teaser. Thank you all for tuning in today. Don't forget that this is WSTU 1450, Treasure Coast, the Treasure Coast Forum, Martin County's Heritage Station. Thank you so much for listening, and we shall see you next week. Have fun, stay safe, and goodbye.
See y'all.